Alright, Phantoon time. I hesitated to make this one, to try and make a tutorial on Phantoon, because there's a lot that goes into it, and like a lot of it has already been covered by a lot of people, notably Zenny. The way I learned Phantoon was like looking at Zenny's tutorial that's like an hour long. So like there's already resources out there that very thoroughly cover how you're supposed to do Phantoon. So like what can I do that isn't just inferior to sending someone a link to Zenny's video? Yeah, we're gonna try to do something. I'm gonna take the approach less of explaining how the fight works and more like giving examples of how to practice it. I think this video is just gonna assume you know most of how Phantoon works. It's just a matter of like figuring out how to get better. So I'll go over some particulars, but for the most part, it's just gonna be like, how do you go into the practice hack? How do you set this up? How do you find ways of developing good habits for how to even approach this and practice this? So if you go into category presets, well, first off, I think it's preset options. So if you go to preset options, current preset, there's a bunch of options here. You can cycle through like this, or you can just click it. Yeah, here. So here's a list of all the preset categories. These are basically speed run categories. So PRKD is the one that does Phantoon first, then Ridley, then Kraid, then Dragon. Because Phantoon is first on this, you're doing it with no suits, with one tank, and with minimal ammo. I would definitely advise practicing to start on KPDR preset. So to show off, PRKD, so I have that preset selected, so now that category selected, I should say. Now you go to category presets, and I click on Rec Ship, and then Phantoon, and here I am with the loadout I'm expected to have during the PRKD speedrun. So instead, we're gonna go and set this to... Oh, there's multiple KPDRs, alright. KPDR, I think these are, like, I don't think these are gonna affect too much. You might get like an extra missile pack on these, but I'm just gonna select this one. Basically, this will give me Varia and more health because I have done Kraid before this in this speedrun category. So now we go back to category presets. Rec Ship is down here. You find Phantoon, click that, and now you are at the door. You're at the door to Phantoon with the loadout you're expected to have. You actually only have 100 health, but I'm going to assume you have more tanks. Here is where you would see it. Equipment. Enter, yeah, it says 2 tanks. So if I filled to full, this would be 299. Honestly, yeah, for this, we're just gonna do that. Just for demonstration purposes, we're gonna refill to full. Actually, let's tweak this a little bit. I prefer doing this without wave beam because wave beam makes the shooting the flames feel a bit weird. Toggle beams. Off. So you can do that, and then you can also come down here, controller shortcuts. I have noticed some people with their configuration of emulators or whatnot, save states weren't working quite right. So you might need to look into that to make sure you can even do save states. But you can come into your controller shortcuts menu and find save state and load state. These are the two you care about. Also, reload preset is helpful to know because like if you put a save state where you didn't want it, you can do that to get back to the beginning of the Phantoon preset we selected at the beginning. So just take note of these button combos. You can change them yourself if you want. Mine are probably going to be different than yours because I'm on Hitbox and I've customized them to my own preferences. All right, so you want to find a spot roughly around here. Different people do different things. Some people stand forward. I like to stand back a bit and crouch as long as you're like roughly on this angle, and then you drop a save state before Phantoon appears. And then we have the different patterns. So you've probably seen people do this fight. It looks something like this where, hang on, it looks something like this, where they'll shoot at spots because they know where Phantoon's gonna be, and then they wait at the next spot and then shoot for that one. Boom, there he is. Do something like that, jump around, then try to Doppler, collect the missiles, and then go again. Find your spot here. So this is roughly what it looks like. To give a very brief overview, Phantoon has essentially 6 patterns he can choose from on any given phase. there's a fast, mid, and slow, and there's a left and right. So there's 6 patterns for each one. The first pattern is unique because he starts in the middle. Second pattern onward will always be like the same set of 6 patterns. So there's like 12 different patterns to learn. So that's already a lot. So I would say, at least for the first stage of practicing this, because the first phase only happens once, and then the second phase onward happens every time after that, I would actually advise starting with that, because then you'll have more of the fight that you've practiced. You can have a bad intro and then clean up the rest of it if that's what you've practiced. Whereas if you've only practiced the first section, well, it's like, oh, you messed up the intro, too bad. The rest of the fight's gonna be hard. So we're gonna get through the first section here. Go away. Okay, so now I like to stand here. Different people have their different preferences, but I like to stand specifically here. Here's where we get to the cool part. Now that we've got our save state on the second phase, we're gonna go into RNG Control, and then we're going to Phantoon menu, and you see this whole mess of stuff. First phase, we don't care about that right now because we're not on the first phase. Second phase is the one we care about. We are going to pick one of the options. So we start with the fasts. So let's start with fast left. So now, because this is turned on and everything else is off, that means every time he starts, he's going to start on the left and he's going to give us a fast. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. Okay. You don't have to save state after doing the RNG control. I did it just out of habit. So we're going to turn fast left on. And now we load the save state and we just practice doing this. Obviously, I've already practiced this, so like I'm going to hit it more often than you probably will when you're starting this. But yeah, let's just do this. And probably even ignore the Dopplers. Just do the 5. So you hit him, shoot the flame. 1, 2, 1, 2, 5. And then you wait, and you do it again. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Click up the drops. Boom. What this does is it gives you an opportunity to just have the same pattern every time, so you can just lock into that one pattern and learn the timing. So we do that. We go boom. I was late. Boom. And you can play around with different places to stand. Some people stay over here and shoot up for this one. So another thing to know is the patterns on the second phase onward are symmetrical. So the left fast and the right fast start in the same location respective to the side of the arena they're on. So whatever system you have for this left fast, if you stand on the left side, you have the same system for the right fast. Point is, you need to stand in a spot where you can cover both quickly. So this is a good spot here because it covers this left fast, but also if I get the right fast, we'll turn this on. And now, so we got left fast, now right fast. See, I can just aim up and cover it that way. And I've done a lot of trial and error on all of these patterns, so I know like my preferences for where to stand and how well it works for each pattern. But yeah, like if I stand right here, I know I can just react. I don't have to move my feet. I just have to change the aiming to either angle or straight up. And it will work either way. But you will need to experiment with different setups and different places to stand for them, because Zenny went over this in his video, but like the projectile grid is very weird. So like projectiles interacting with projectiles get very strange. And depending on where Phantoon is on that grid, it can change whether or not it's even possible to hit all of the flames at once. For these fast patterns, it works. The left one, I find it easier to hit the left one from a diagonal than it is to hit the right one aiming straight up. But the right one is like a 5% chance. For whatever reason, the odds are not equal for the patterns on the second phase onward. So if you If you get a right side, you're almost always going to get a mid or a slow. And you can even see here, I have both left fast and right fast up. And he's not giving me the right fast nearly as often. But yeah, you see I shot up and it like got half the flames instead of all of them. Part of that was probably my timing, but part of that is just the way the projectiles interact is different depending on where on the grid Phantoon is when he releases the flames. Yeah, anyway. So yeah, like we were saying, with RNG Control, you pick like fast left, practice that one, then probably turn that one off realistically. So now you can just practice this one. You just do it again. And then you can practice like, okay, that one's done, let me get him in position again. Okay, I was late on my shot, so it didn't catch the flames. Yeah, right fast is one of the harder ones to hit, both because it's weird and because it doesn't come up very often. So you're almost never ready for it, but you need to have at least a positioning where you can have a chance at hitting it. But yeah, again, this is something you want to take slowly so that you can really get a feel for it. Practice fast left, fast right, then you put them together, and now you're practicing reacting to the fast left and the fast right. And again, when you're reacting to these, it's literally just, do I aim up or do I aim left? As long as you have a good setup for this, it's just, you don't have to move your feet, you just aim. That was unfortunate. And again, you'll notice, you'll start to notice as you put these patterns together, the fast right and mid left are the least common ones. But it is important to be able to do these patterns, because if you can't, he can just catch you off guard and then you'll like lose a fight for it. All right, now that we've done the fast, then we go again back in RNG Control and we go to the mids. For this one, I recommend practicing mid right first, because that one's more common and it's easier to understand. So now we have our preset, so we shoot up to make sure we're covering that, because we set the RNG, we know it's not going to be that one, but we need to be ready to just react to it anyways. So now we go up, and then I know that the mid is going to stop like right here, right there. But you'll notice if I'm standing there, I'm just going to get hit, right? So we got to get into position. I like to stand here and crouch. So like this tile on the floor, do that and crouch, and you'll be basically in position. Like that. That is a lot of people's favorite pattern, because it's a quicker pattern. It's quicker than the slows, obviously, but also like the way the hitboxes work, like we were talking about with the grid, the projectile grid, that one happens to be easier to hit all the flames on. So yeah, we do this. That. Boom. But now you'll notice, with it being a mid and not a fast, we now have to deal with the flames. And we have to like pay attention to where they are and be able to like get into position. Because like if we're not shooting flames, I was shooting flames and I still got hit there. So this is where the fight starts getting a bit harder. A thing to note about the flames is they are not vulnerable until they bounce off the ground. So like if, let's wait. So if I shoot there, it's just gonna go straight through. You have to wait for it to touch the ground. Like you can see it, like there's a little eyeball inside the flame. That eyeball doesn't appear until it touches the ground. So it's very helpful to kind of develop a rhythm where you pay attention to when the flame touches the ground, and then you don't shoot before that. Because if you shoot before that, you might shoot early and then your next shot is too late, and it can take a long time. If you're just spamming shots, it will a lot of times catch them, but it's hard to maneuver around while you're spamming shots like this. So that is something that's really helpful to practice, really helpful to internalize, is just watch the flame, bounces, shoot. I still missed him. It's tough. Giving me late flames this time, so shoot, and I still got hit. But yeah, like if you can internalize this, and like make this second nature, it'll make it much easier to get into position for the actual patterns you're looking for. I probably should have mentioned this at the start, but like the thing with Phantoon is it is a very technical fight. There's a lot to learn, a lot to memorize, a lot of things going on at once. So like this really, if you want to get to like low resource Phantoon, this stuff needs to become second nature. Like you need to just drill it into your brain to where you don't even have to think about it to do it. You're going to be practicing Phantoon for a long time if you're wanting to like actually get good at this fight. It takes forever. It takes a lot of work. But that's why like these save states and this RNG control is so good here, because it lets you like isolate, okay, I'm struggling with this pattern lately. How do I like go back and clean that up and figure out how to deal with maybe the flames that are in my face all the time? But yeah, now that we've done fast left, fast right, and mid right, let's combine the two rights together now. So now we're gonna do fast right and mid right. Okay, so now we know he's always gonna spawn on the right, but we don't know if he's gonna do a mid or a fast. So now we've given ourselves a little flow chart. Oops. Now he's gonna spawn there. Now I have to cover this one because he might just give me a fast. He didn't. Let's try again. Okay, he gave us a mid again, so we're ready for it. Boom, boom. He's almost dead. Oh, there was a fast, and I wasn't ready for it. Again, like, I do this fight in vanilla a lot, so I'm just very commonly not ready for that one because it almost never comes up. But you need to be ready because it could come up and just bite you in the butt. Okay. And you'll notice I stand like slightly to the right of where he spawns on the fast, and that's because of what you saw right there. The flame, sometimes he drops the flame right on top of you, and you need to be able to like dodge that. And if you're standing right under it, it's just gonna hit you every time. And it can also eat your missiles. So yeah, like where I stand is like slightly to the right of where that flame drops. So I can be confident that it's not gonna hit me if I time things correctly. And if the floor isn't helpful for you, you can look at like the little green dots. Like the little green dots in the background are like perfectly in line with Samus's arm cannon. Especially if you're using like custom sprites, that could be a good reference point. Okay, yeah, so that's putting mid right and mid fast together. Why don't we throw in our fast left, because we already learned that one. Just throw in one extra thing. And again, just learn one pattern at a time and then throw it on top of a bunch of other patterns. So you're not only learning the timing for the pattern itself, you're also learning how to react and cover multiple options. So now we do this. Okay, it's a right, it's not a fast. So we know it's gonna be a mid because we haven't turned on slows yet. So we do that. Okay, get in position again. Pick those up because why not? Okay, submit again. Boom. Get back in position. There's the fast. And he's dead because, yeah, I knew what his health was. So do it again. It's not a fast. Okay, he's not giving us a left fast. This is weird. But again, it's just about developing the recognition and the reactions to be able to cover all of these options. And it could just be I'm getting unlucky on RNG. That happens. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, I think I was just getting unlucky. Yeah, there's the fast left. Wow, he does not want to give me a left. What on earth is going on? There it is. But yeah, like that can also just happen. Like in real runs, he can like give you the same patterns over and over and you're just not ready for the one you haven't seen in a while. Yeah, again, it's important to practice all of these. All right, so we've done everything but mid left now. So the mid left is another one that like almost never comes up. I think it's slightly more common than the fast right, but it's still pretty rare. So you might be thinking, since it's symmetrical, I'll just stand in the same spot on the left side, which you can do that. But I have a reason for not doing that, and we'll show that off in a second. So I do this, and then he immediately moves right. That's true of his behavior on any pattern, at least as far as I can tell. After you hit him, he moves right before going left. So if you're standing to the right of him, you're going to take a hit. So, like, again, you can do this on the left side. Like, you can make it symmetrical to how you do the mid-right. But if you do that, you're risking, like, just taking a hit after you get the missiles in. So what I like to do is I try to, depends on if the flames let me get over there, but I try to get over to here and do it from this side, because then I actually have a chance of dodging the hit after I get the missiles in. So go over here, boom. And sometimes he still hits me anyway, but it's a little bit safer. Just like that. And again, there's a lot of nuances here about like how to dodge Phantoon after you get your first missiles in, where to jump, where to move, and like there's just not enough time in a YouTube video to cover all of those things. So you're just gonna have to like experiment with these and figure out what works for you. Watch other people do the fight and see what they do to dodge Phantoon. It is very important, I will say, when he goes off screen, if you're gonna do like the Doppler after the off screen, it's important to jump at a certain timing because that will influence the height at which Phantoon comes across the screen. So like if you don't jump at all, he's usually going to loop around the top and then you're just not going to get good hits in. What you want to do is jump at a specific timing and then he will come straight across the bottom of the screen so you can just throw a bunch of missiles in his face. Okay, so that's mid left. Let's put fast left and mid left together. So again, so we have to react. Okay, that was not a fast, so now we go here. Boom. Got him. Go again. It was a fast. Good thing I reacted. And I will say, especially for the fast patterns, and particularly the ones that are far away, it is a good habit to just be throwing a missile regardless. Because a lot of times, if you wait to react to whether or not you got the shot on the flames, it's too late to throw a missile. Because sometimes he just closes his eye that fast and you can't hit him. So, especially for these far away fast, I like to just go ahead and throw shot, missile. So that, like, even, so if it did hit, I get the shot, and if it didn't, I burned one missile. No big deal. And that's definitely, like, it changes depending on how I'm feeling in the fight. It's also possible, like you just saw, to fire the missile too fast, and then the missile goes through before his eye even opens. So like, it's definitely one of those things you just got to get a feel for it, and as you learn the fight and get used to the different timings of things, you can decide whether or not you trust yourself today to react to it or not. And if you're not good with Dopplers or dodging Phantoon, you can always just throw 5 missiles at him. Shoot 2 and then 3 more, and then he disappears instantly, and then you just don't have to deal with the off-screen shenanigans. Or if you're just at low health and you're worried about taking extra hits, that can just be a safe way to get him out of the way, like that. Like, I don't feel safe in that corner, so I'm just gonna shoot him and get him away. So I get my damage in and then just don't even bother with the rest of it. All right. So I'm sure y'all get the idea now. Now we go back in RNG Control, and we add all the things we've learned together. All the fast right, mid right, boom. Now we have 4 things to react to. Oh, see, I wasn't ready. I'm so used to just that right fast not happening that I'm just not ready for it half the time. But it's important because it can catch you off guard. Why did I do that? So now it's not the fast right, so I gotta be ready for the mid. Covered it. Now it's left again. It was a fast, but I shot early. And again, this is just really good training. If I know it's gonna be a fast, I can dial in that timing and hit it, but if I don't know, sometimes I get lazy on the timing and I start rushing it, and you have to be able to react to the multiple different patterns that he has and have the timing locked in for all of them. And it takes a lot of time, a lot of repetition, a lot of time in the practice hack to be good at all of them. All right, next up we add the slows. These are hard. The slows are really hard. All right, we'll start with the slow right. So you go up here, that's where the fast is. Mid is over here. Okay, it wasn't a mid, so I know it's slow. He's gonna stop up there, but he's gonna take a couple passes to get there. So that's where he stops on the slow. Tricky thing about the slows, you might think, because like for a while I treated the slows like this, where I like tried to angle shot them, which kind of works, but it's not very reliable. Because again, we talked about the hitbox things with the projectile grid and whatnot. On that particular spot of the screen, it's really hard to hit all the flames with one shot. And it's just janky shenanigans of Super Metroid is really all it comes down to. So try to do that. I got it that time, but like, I can tell you from experience, that's not consistent. Because you're shooting at that weird angle with the flames in your face, it's just, the timing is a lot tighter to get all the flames. As dangerous as it feels, it is better to just stand underneath where he's gonna end up and shoot straight up. That causes some other problems, unfortunately, but I found those to be less impactful than the problems with the angle shot. So you'll notice I did a little jump there. That's because when you're standing underneath him like that, you've got flames falling in your face, and those can just eat the missiles. So like if I just stand here. So I just stand here, okay. Yeah, right there, the flame fell on top of me. I got the missiles through that time, but it's very common for that little teardrop missile or teardrop flame that falls down at you to just eat the shot that you're trying to hit Phantoon with. And then you get the invisible phase and you have to deal with a whole bunch of other stuff. So my fix for that is, again, it's a lot of inputs really quickly. It's probably going to be a while before you can like comfortably do this. But what I do, you'll see, and I do it in really quick succession. I shoot, switch to missiles immediately after shooting, and then I don't shoot until after I jump. So it's like shoot, item select, jump, shoot is the sequence of inputs I use there. It's also worth noting like the way I figure out the timing for these, because most of the slows are actually at the same height, oddly enough. I actually look at like the height of Phantoon above Samus. So like either her shoulder or her arm cannon. Like I use Samus's height as a good reference point for the timing. Like just after Phantoon passes the top of the arm cannon is about the right time to take the shot. Again, the slows to me are the hardest ones to hit by far. But obviously you need to be capable of doing that. The one nice thing about the slows is it gives you more time to farm flames to get potential health. So if that's what you're doing to just survive, you can just let the slow go by and take the health you can get and wait for the invisible phase. It's not fast, obviously, but it's a decent survival strategy. All right, so now we go to slow left. Slow left is going to be basically the same as slow right. Again, these patterns are pretty symmetrical. The only difference is like where you're standing when you start. So if you can do the slow right, you can do the slow left. Boom, boom. There is a difference in how you dodge, though, because again, we talked about how like he always goes off screen to the right. He tends to move to the right after you hit him. So it's like left side tends to be safer at the start, but then you're kind of trapped in the corner and it's hard to dodge around him. So again, too much to go into for this video, but worth being aware of, worth practicing. And again, this like doing this method with just like going through step by step the different patterns and learning how to react and cover all of the options is super helpful. All right, so first phase, this is where it gets weird. He starts in the middle and he can go left and down or up and right. This makes it harder to track because they're not symmetrical anymore. So every pattern is different. We're gonna start with fast left. So here, boom. And you'll notice, again, this is like quirks of the projectile collision system. It's really hard to get all the flames in one shot on these first two. And that's just something you gotta accept and you gotta make adjustments. Sometimes, like, I think if I stand back a bit further, I can have a tendency to get the top half of the flame wheel instead of the bottom. I'm not getting it now, but yeah, like that. Where my shots hit the top of the flame wheel and then the bottom one's looped around and hit me. You don't want that. You want to get the bottom half if you can. So this is where you just kind of got to play around with your own preferences on where your starting point is and get used to how you're doing it and maybe adjust if it's not working for you. My cue for this is kind of strange. I actually look for that right there. So this little pipe in the background, I look for the center of Phantoon to touch the right side of that pipe. That's my cue for when I shoot. But like, find your own timing, whatever, like look for some visual cue, because if you try to time this just off of feel, it's gonna get very inconsistent very fast. So find some kind of visual reference. Usually in the background is probably the best option. Like make sure you're standing on the same spot every time and make sure you're shooting at the same time every time, because otherwise this is just gonna get very painful. All right, so that's the fast left, and then now we go to fast right. Again, on the first round, these are not symmetrical. So you're just gonna have to learn them all one by one. Now we get fast right. Similar deal, I'm looking at the ceiling. So these lines up here, basically when he crosses like the space between the black line here and then the green over here, right around there, when the center of Phantoon passes that's when I shoot. And again, these are all very precise, and this is specific to my starting point as well. If you're starting like further to the left and standing up, you'll probably have a different timing for that than I will. So again, find your own timing, figure out what works for you, and just be consistent with it. Now so this is an interesting quirk. It's easier to show off here than it is on the second phase. So in regards to dodging, sometimes you're safe on the left side and sometimes you're not. In my experience, when he starts on the left, I can usually sit over here. The flame was there, so that was a little dangerous, but like, I can usually sit in the left corner. But if I try to do that here, when he started on the right, I'm gonna get hit pretty much every time. So like, knowing your different dodge strategies for different patterns is very important. So like when he's on the left, I know like I'm not gonna get under him, so it's better just to stay on the left side. If he starts on the right, then I know it's not gonna be safe on the left, so I need to jump, bait him up, then run under and jump over. And again, every pattern's gonna be slightly different on how you dodge them, so it's really good to just lab these out, not only like being able to shoot the flames, but knowing how to dodge afterwards. Because again, if you're wanting to get to a point where you can do a suitless Phantoon, you're gonna be taking double damage. And 40 damage hits from these flames adds up really fast. All right, next up, we got the mids. I think the shots are more consistent on the mids, but like getting in position is really tough. We'll start with the mid right. I think that one's a bit harder. No, we'll start with the mid left because it's easier. All right, so we start here. We get the left. We don't get the fast. Okay. We can actually just kind of stay put for this one. Never mind. Right, mid left is not on the left. I was thinking of the other one. Okay, so... All right, so now we got the right. He didn't do anything. Now he's gonna be a mid. We can just stay put. This one is very similar to the mid right in the second phase. I just look for the floor tile here, crouch. Boom. That one's probably the easiest one in round one to actually hit. So boom, you do that. He didn't get it, so now we prep for the mid. Watch the flames. Don't get hit by it like I just did. Boom. And he was on the left, so we can safely dodge to the, like, we can safely stay on the left corner, more or less. I just sit here, you won't hit me. So that's the easier one. Now we'll go for the harder one. So this one, he gives us a left. Now he's gonna end up right about here. And this one's tough. Like, the hitbox is fine, but timing it is tough because he's moving very fast and then he just stops in the middle of it. So you have to shoot very early for this one. Way earlier than you think you would. So it's like, as he's swinging to the right, now. You have to know where he's gonna stop, and you have to shoot very preemptively for this one. So what I'm looking for is the little green dots in the background. Just like the right fast, it's pretty much the same spot. So you just aim up right there, and he's gonna stop right there. So as soon as this one doesn't work, I'm trying to clear flames and get over to the right side, aiming up, shoot, right there. All right, and then again, like all the other times, we throw everything together. So now we shoot right, we got the fast, cool. Dodge around it, I took the flame, but that's fine. There wasn't really a path that time. Didn't get the fast, now we clear flames. Let's stay over here, because he's gonna stop there. And I wasn't dodging, but yeah, practice the dodging too. Boom, we got the fast, cool. Again, he started on the right. I was not safe in the corner. I should not have dodged that way. Boom, boom, boom. He started on the left, so I can now safely morph. And you don't always have to morph in the corner. It's just safer. So he's over there. Boom, boom, boom. Morph to the corner. Oop, I was early, I think, on that shot. And again, this is why you practice, because like you may be able to hit all of the patterns in isolation, but you need to be able to react to all of them on the fly. And this really just kind of has to become second nature. So those are the mids. Now we go to slows. Slow left is very similar to the mid right, because he ends about right there. So you can kind of just sit here now. And right there. Well, the next one. There. That one is like deceptively hard though, again, because the projectile hitboxes get weird. Okay, so now he's there. Now we gotta cover this one. That one, it wasn't that one. Now we get back over here. Now we have time. He's gonna loop twice before he gets back into position. So right there. For one, on the slow left, he has a habit of just like guarding himself with a bunch of flames. But also the hitboxes. Again, sometimes it's very easy for this to like hit half of the ring and then the other half to block your missiles, kind of like that. So like I've learned, because it happens so often, I've learned to just pay attention, and if a missile hits the flame, then I just shoot 2 more. But it's very easy to like shoot 2 missiles and none of them hit, or shoot more than 3 and then or shoot 3 and none of them hit the flames, and then you have like made him disappear. So it's like, it's really tough to pay attention to that. You're probably gonna take a hit, and it's just, yeah, this one is deceptively difficult. Location is easy to remember. Actually hitting the shot is tough. Alright, so that's the slow left. Now we jump on the slow right. We do that. It wasn't the fast. Okay, cool. Sit here for the mid right. Do that one. And now the slow is going to be right up here. So very similar to the slows in phase 2. He's going to get to a specific height. It's just your location is different. So these yellow dots in the background. The mid right is the green dots over here. The mid left is on the right. So the mid is over here on these green dots. The slow is in the middle on these yellow dots right here. But yeah, just like the others, if you get your vertical position, you can watch Phantoon's height and wait till he's like just above Samus's arm cannon, roughly. Boom, right there. This one can be particularly frustrating because a lot of times he's already putting flames down where you need to go. So I find it very helpful to like stand to the side, clear flames, and then get into position, but that's also just a lot to like execute, making sure you get into position like immediately after the flames are gone. So you could just stand underneath. So we do that. It wasn't the mid. Okay, cool. You can just stand underneath here and wait, but you're probably gonna take some hits. But if you like need to like not take hits, you're gonna need to just learn the timing of when that slow is and be able to step to the side and clear the flames. Which I'm not covering the mid now, which is bad. Yeah, and again, even I'm still struggling with that a little bit. That slow right is probably the worst pattern to get at the start. We're gonna loop one more time. We took a hit, that's fine. Boom. All right, and that's all the patterns, so now let's throw them together. So he went left, it was not a fast, so now we gotta clear enough flames to get over here. Shoot now, it was not a mid, so now it's gonna be back to the left. Gonna be a slow right about here. Okay, starting again from the top. It was right, it was not a fast, so we clear flames. Get to here, it was a mid. Cool. That was a bad dodge. Start again. And yeah, this is just the process of practicing Phantoon. You learn all the patterns, you learn them individually, and then you progressively add more of them into the pool, so you have things that you have to react to. And you just keep doing that until you can reliably react to all of them and get damage in on all of them. So now we're getting a slow right here. Okay, I took a few hits, but we got the shots. And then as you're learning these patterns, if you get to the point where like, okay, I can hit the patterns every time, then okay, give yourself less health. All right, next, you take away a suit and just like progressively make the fight more difficult for yourself so you can keep lowering that threshold of what you're capable of on Phantoon. But the important thing is like knowing all the patterns, knowing what they are, practicing them individually, and then putting them together to give yourself the things that you have to react to. Because again, this fight is probably the most technical fight in the game. It's very punishing if you're doing it on low equipment and you don't have good practice on it. So yeah, hopefully this helps people. Again, there's a lot more to talk about with Phantoon that I haven't begun to cover here, but hopefully this gives enough for people to figure out how to actually practice this. Again, I'll probably link Zenny's video in the description, so you can like see a more thorough description of what mechanics are behind Phantoon. But I wanted to put this out there to give people practice strategies so that they can begin to like take the information about Phantoon and turn it into practical execution. If you only one round, you only have to memorize half the patterns. Good call, Nito. Hi, how's it going?